After 3 years of judgment, she revealed her transformative journey into an irresistible woman. In the quiet little town of Maplewood, Sarah Johnson, the librarian, was as much a fixture as the dusty stacks of books lining the library walls. Every Sunday, with weary eyes and a heart heavy from whispers, she would maneuver through grocery store aisles, where each seemingly innocent glance felt like an arrow grazing her skin. They talked. They always talked. 3 long years of being a single mother had carved an indelible mark on her soul, and she felt it each time she breathed, each time she faced them. They saw a woman who stumbled who was unworthy of their respect. But today, the soft rhythm of raindrops against the library's windows brought an unexpected visitor. Mr. Thomas, a retired professor known for his keen intellect, entered like a thunderstorm, a thrilling disturbance in her monotonous world. He had a way of looking beyond exterior layers, recognizing the spark she kept buried deep inside. Their conversation unveiled poetry from their past, a passion that had dimmed under the weight of rumor and resentment. Yet, as she spoke, and as he listened with that twinkle in his eye, Sarah felt a flicker of old warmth, mere embers of her forgotten self. Her heart tore between joy and fear. What would the townsfolk whisper if she dared to once again embrace words with conviction? She had a daughter, Lily, whose laughter echoed through their small home, the one bright light flickering against her gray world. Yet, the moment those words began to flow onto the page, her quiet sanctuary transformed into a mirror, one reflecting not only her hidden dreams but also the scars left by judgment. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The idea of taking an art course at the neighboring university seemed reckless yet tantalizing. But with the laughter of her peers ringing in her ears, she questioned whether she could risk experiencing another round of derision. Faces of the judgmental parents, and their whispers echoed in her mind. Look at her. Why would she think she belongs here? Thoughts spiraled like a storm. Doubts grew with every line she wrote, deepening her anguish and self-loathing as she recounted her past with each poem. As Mr. Thomas prodded her to share her work at the local arts event, every nerve in her body fired warnings. Her heart tightened as fear seeped into her being, drowning her sense of self-worth. Was she prepared to display her innermost struggles to the same town that had condemned her? Moments before approaching the microphone, stomach churning, she glimpsed a sea of familiar faces, families who saw her only as the fallen mother. And there, in the throng, was someone who had always made their disdain clear. Would the audience find compassion in her words, or would judgment reign supreme? And as she opened her mouth to speak, that familiar face lingered in her mind, a haunting reminder that perhaps the shadows of her past would never completely vanish, no matter how brightly she burned. Her hands trembled. Would she ignite empathy or just a more profound shame? The moment hung suspended, taut with unyielding tension, leaving only questions swirling in the silence, begged to be answered. The spotlight felt both liberating and suffocating as Sarah stood before the microphone. With the weight of judgment hanging in the air like a heavy fog, she took a deep breath, readying herself for the plunge. Her heart raced as memories of her past flickered through her mind. Each taunting whisper, each scornful glance, seeped into her consciousness. This was not merely a performance. It was a confrontation with the ghosts that had haunted her since the fall. "Good evening," she began, her voice shaky yet possessing an unmistakable urgency. The words drew her in, wrapping around her insecurities like a lifeline. She forced herself to lock eyes with the audience instead of retreating into the shadows. As she spoke, fragments of her life spilled forth, moments of doubt, struggle, and those fleeting glimpses of joy she clung to amid her despair. Each verse she recited felt like an act of defiance against every whispered comment that had sought to silence her. The initial tremor in her voice gave way to incremental confidence, and her fears began to dissipate, lost amid the poetry resurrecting emotions within her. She discovered the rhythm of her own heartbeat aligning with the cadence of her words, as if reclaiming a part of herself that had long been stripped away. For the first time in years, she felt her heart swell with empowerment, emanating warmth toward her audience instead of trepidation. However, just as the spell of her words enveloped the room, she noticed the familiar face among the crowd, the one that had always sneered at her struggles. It was a potent reminder of the frail connection between vulnerability and shame. Her pulse quickened anew, battling against the desire to withdraw, the fear of being reduced once more into the town-esque caricature of failure. But then came the twist, the unexpected recognition that she was more than the narrative defined by others. The poise in her voice resumed its strength as she embraced that notion, drawing on the triumphs she had ignored. "I am not just a mother who fell. I am a woman who rises," she declared, and with each statement she chipped away at the layers of shame. As she concluded, the applause resonated like a bomb, momentarily sweeping away years of internal turmoil. Could it be that the townsfolk felt a shift in perspective? Did her honesty stir compassion where once there had only been scorn? Her emotions swirled between uncertainty and exhilaration, a cocktail of vulnerability and newfound resolve. Watching them clap, she dared to hope that maybe, just maybe, they could see her differently now. After stepping off the stage, the atmosphere transformed. She moved toward Mr. Thomas, who was waiting with an encouraging smile. "That was extraordinary, Sarah. You have no idea how many lives you've touched." His words ignited a fire within her, a recognition of her potential as a voice for others who had felt silenced. Yet, lurking beneath the surface was the unresolved tension that had laid dormant in her mind. The applause was loud, but could it drown out her lingering fears? She felt the budding desire to dive deeper into her craft, to recommit herself to that art course she had nearly dismissed. But what if she faced criticism again? It was a personal dilemma that brought her to the brink of decision. She had danced with the joy of expression tonight, but in the delicate balance of trauma and triumph, was she ready to risk it all once more? The stakes felt higher, and the open door to a redefining path stood before her. With the warmth of a thin thread of bravery weaving through her thoughts, she made a conscious choice to explore that art course. As she ventured home, a question crept into her mind, compelling yet frightening: what awaited her on the other side of that choice? Would she find a new sanctuary in self-expression, or would the weight of judgment still bind her? As dawn broke, Sarah sat on the edge of her bed, the first rays of sunlight filtering through the half-opened blinds. There was a stillness in the air, an unusual calm that contrasted sharply with the storm in her mind. The previous night's applause echoed, but so did the nagging whispers of self-doubt. She had tasted the bittersweet flavor of fulfillment during her performance, yet uncertainty gnawed at her. Was this just a fleeting moment, or a pivotal turning point? The decision to pursue the art course loomed before her like a towering mountain. Could she traverse its steep slopes, or would she crumble under the weight of expectation? Her fingers fidgeted, gliding along the textured fabric of her blanket. Each movement felt pregnant with potential, a reminder that she had the power to paint her life anew. As the clock ticked steadily, a plan began to congeal in her mind. She would attend the first class. No strings attached, just a moment to explore what art could offer her in a tangible way. It was an act of defiance against the restrictive definitions she had accepted for too long. She began to jot down her thoughts in a worn notebook, its pages frayed and coffee-stained, each word an affirmation of her commitment. Later, she stood before the mirror, her reflection revealing a visage transformed by determination. The remnants of fear still lurked, yes, but they were now mingled with an undercurrent of fierce resolve. With every fleeting second, she rebuilt herself through self-affirmation, recognizing the power she held. Stepping into the art studio felt like entering a different world. The air was infused with the scent of turpentine and the soft hum of brushes against canvas. Sarah inhaled deeply, feeling the electric thrill of creativity flicker within her. She took a seat at a wooden easel, its surface speckled with paint splatters, evidence of stories untold, battles fought, and triumphs rendered. "Hi there, welcome." A friendly voice intruded on her reverie. Marissa, the instructor, exuded warmth and enthusiasm, her eyes sparkling with genuine curiosity. "What brings you to this class?" "I want to explore," Sarah replied, her voice steady for the first time that day. "I'm looking for a new way to express myself." Marissa smiled, nodding in understanding. "Art is a journey of discovery." The truth of those words resonated in Sarah's core, solidifying her resolve. This was her ticket to unearth dormant emotions, to dismantle the walls she had built around her self-worth. The moments stretched into infinity as they immersed in drawing exercises, warmth radiating in the camaraderie that bloomed among the students. Each stroke felt liberating, as if she were peeling layers from her conditioned self. Her heartbeat echoed in tandem with the rhythm of her pencil against paper, capturing glimpses of her thoughts and feelings, giving them form and presence. But as the class drew to a close, a well-known pang of anxiety began to creep back in. Suddenly, criticism felt imminent. She envisioned eyes scrutinizing her work, judging her very essence. Outwardly, she maintained her composure, yet within, a tempest brewed. "Great job, Sarah," Marissa remarked as she walked past, offering a nod of approval. Those words, small yet powerful, struck a chord within her. Could she truly cultivate confidence in her ability? In that moment, a deeper understanding started to crystallize in her mind. The stakes were indeed higher, but the possibility for growth was infinitely more valuable. As she left the studio, clutching her drawings close to her chest, a decisive thought solidified: this was just the beginning. A path illuminated by passion and vulnerability lay ahead, and she was determined to follow it. But lingering in the back of her mind was a thought she couldn't shake. What if the past crept back in to snub her renewed spirit? Sarah felt herself hovering on the brink once again, and as she reached home, the question weighed heavily on her heart. Would she have the courage to confront those lurking shadows, or would they define her journey yet? Again? The gentle glow of evening settled over the city, casting long shadows in Sarah's small apartment. The drawings from her first class lay spread across her dining table, each one a testament to her tentative steps into uncharted territory. With each stroke of her pencil, she felt herself inch closer to an alluring freedom she had yet to fully grasp. Yet the shadows of her past still flickered at the edges of her awareness, threatening to engulf the light of her burgeoning self. That night, torn between enthusiasm and dread, she flipped through her sketches again. The freedom they represented felt intoxicating, yet the fear of inadequacy returned, curling around her thoughts like dry smoke choking the air. Each sketch was an insight into her evolving self. At the same time, it served as a reminder of the judgment she had long battled. What if her past experiences, the harsh critiques, the dismissals were to resurface and undermine this fledgling confidence? She could hear her mother's voice echoing through her mind. "Art isn't a path for sensible people, Sarah." Those words, once a paternal warning, began to take on a different significance. Was it truly a road less traveled, too fraught with uncertainty for someone like her? Or was that just another boundary she had inadvertently constructed? As days turned into weeks, Sarah committed to her classes, each session etching new lessons into her psyche. Marissa's encouragement became a lifeline, slowly eroding the well-worn ruts of self-doubt. "Your style is developing beautifully," Marissa would say, offering insights on techniques that felt like unlocking hidden chambers within herself. Yet, each compliment was closely accompanied by the weight of vulnerability, a raw space that exposed her to potential critique. One evening, while engaged in a particularly challenging exercise, she noticed a shift. With her brush poised above the canvas, she allowed herself to dive deeper into emotions she'd long stifled. Uncertainty and regret wrestled with bravery and hope. As her strokes grew bolder, a new dialogue began weaving through her thoughts. This was not merely self-expression, it was confrontation. She was pushing beyond the fortress of judgment, confronting the very narratives that shackled her. But the real test came during a class critique session, a moment that sent a thrill of panic racing through her veins. Each student stood before the group as their pieces were analyzed and discussed, comments flying like flares into the night, some enlightening, others stingingly harsh. Sarah's stomach twisted at the thought of standing there, bare and exposed. Will I even be able to bear it? The thought clawed at her insides. Yet a flicker of resolve ignited within. She would not let fear define her potential. When her turn arrived, a lump lodged in her throat. Holding her work aloft, she met Marissa's encouraging gaze and the expectant looks of her classmates. It was then that she realized it wasn't just the art she was presenting. It was herself, a self she had carefully been reconstructing with each stroke, each class, and each moment of doubt confronted. As the critiques rolled in, something unexpected happened. Feedback flowed with a level of respect that filled her with a warmth she had never anticipated. The shadows of past judgments began to recede, replaced by a sense of belonging and purpose. With a newfound clarity, she finished her piece. "It's not just about the art," she expressed, her voice quaking yet steady. "It's about the courage to face the perceptions of who I am believed to be." The applause that followed felt different this time. It was not merely polite but rooted in genuine warmth and respect. As she stepped down, her heart raced not from anxiety but exhilaration. This was the thrill of revelation. Finally, she was not only seen, she was heard. Yet, as she left the studio that night, a shadow of doubt lingered in her mind. Would this newfound strength withstand the judgment from those still shackled to their perceptions? Would she be able to hold on to this confidence when the world outside spun wildly? Sarah paused on the edge of the street, the city lights glinting like promises, and felt the weight of her question deepen. This was just a taste of transformation. The real challenge loomed ahead, to intertwine her artistic journey with her life's purpose. Would she embrace it wholeheartedly, or would she once again let fear dictate her worth? Days turned into weeks, the rhythm of life settling into a pattern that felt both foreign and exhilarating. Sarah embraced her art classes with fervor, each session pushing her further down a path of self-discovery. She could feel the familiar confines of her past beginning to loosen their grip, replaced by an all-consuming hunger for creative expression and authenticity. Yet, on the fringes of her burgeoning passion, doubt lurked like a shadow, awaiting the slightest crack to invade her newfound confidence. One afternoon, after an intense session focused on personal expression through color, Sarah found herself in the corners of her mind, grappling with a familiar question: what did her art signify? Was it merely a series of colors and shapes, or did it embody the very essence of her identity? Her thoughts spiraled into a whirlpool of introspection, drawing her deeper into the genesis of her creative fire. As she explored this new facet of her psyche, she made a startling observation. The fear that had once dictated her creative choices began to disentangle itself from her sense of purpose. The more she painted, the more she realized that self-acceptance was crucial to her artistic expression. Identifying this connection felt like unearthed treasure. It ignited a flame of determination. Marissa, ever attuned to Sarah's growth, picked up on the shift. During one particularly potent critique, she leaned across the table, fixing Sarah with a knowing gaze. "Make it personal," she urged, her voice a soft echo that cut through the noise around them. "Your art is not just for pleasing others, it's your truth. Don't shy away from it." In that moment, clarity washed over Sarah. The notion of sharing her personal journey through her art no longer felt daunting. It ignited a fierce drive that made her heartbeat quicken. She realized it was time to truly confront her past, to channel the struggles and shadows that haunted her canvas. Grabbing her brush with newfound conviction, she spent countless evenings getting lost in painting that expressed not just her skill but her spirit. Each stroke bared the essence of her story, and it filled the emptiness that had lingered for too long. Yet, as she unveiled deeper layers of emotion within herself, the specter of her mother's dismissive words returned. "Art isn't a path for sensible people," echoed in her mind, a challenge she now sought to transform into a source of strength. Sarah approached her next class with a raw piece in hand, one that catastrophically laid bare her vulnerabilities, the swirling chaos of her thoughts, the uncertainty, the inklings of self-identification. As she stood before her peers, she felt the weight of her truth settle on her shoulders, heavy yet liberating. Nervous energy coursed through her as she prepared to present. She gripped the edges of the canvas tightly as if to keep from falling into an abyss of self-doubt. "This piece is about facing the fear that has held me back," she started, the quiver in her voice morphing into a steadiness. "It's a journey to reclaiming my identity, despite the outside perceptions that once defined me." Each word sharpened her resolve, burning away the fear like kindling to a flame. The silence that followed felt like a shared breath among her classmates. And when the feedback came, it was not just praise. It was validation, recognition of the raw honesty she had just laid before them. In those moments, she felt as if she were reclaiming more than just her artistic voice. She was taking ownership of her life. Even as the class concluded and the applause echoed in her ears, a new fear began to bubble. Would this unmasked vulnerability, shared publicly, provide a shield against the judgment still lurking in the wings? Would she remain steadfast in her journey, or would old insecurities rise to the surface again, threatening to drown her in self-doubt? As she left the studio that night, the air crackled with tension and possibility. Each step echoed the internal question she had yet to answer. How far would she go in embracing her truth? It was no longer just about creating art. It was about self-affirmation, a battle against her own history. Looking back at the vibrant colors she had just revealed, a pulse of excitement coursed through her veins. Sarah took a deep breath, understanding intuitively that the real challenge awaited. How would she respond to the next critique? Would she embrace this authentic version of herself, or would the shadows creep back in? The real test had only just begun. In the days following her revealing presentation, Sarah was caught in a cycle of anticipation and anxiety. Each morning, she approached her easel with a mixture of eagerness and trepidation. The validation from her classmates had sparked something within her, but as the applause faded, so did the comfort it provided. New doubts formed, creeping through the cracks of her newfound confidence like tendrils of fog. What if her next piece faltered? What if her vulnerability was mistaken for weakness? With each brushstroke, she wrestled with the implications of her last critique. This was no longer simply creation, but a relentless confrontation with her shadows. The very act of producing art now felt like standing on a precipice. Leaning too far into her emotional depths could lead to vulnerability, leaving her exposed to the very judgments she had once feared. Drawing upon Marissa's advice, Sarah crafted a strategy. She would create art that not only conveyed her emotions but would also narrate a story of resilience. She envisioned a series of paintings that depicted her journey, a conceptual map of her scars, illuminated with layers of hope, grit, and acceptance. Each piece would serve as a chapter in her untold narrative, marking her progress from fear to self-acceptance. Sarah began with a bold canvas. She layered colors thickly, a riot of chaos that mirrored her internal struggle. A tumultuous sky of dark blues and grays, intertwined with bursts of fiery red and bright yellows that depicted her growth. Days merged into nights as she lost herself in the creation, her heart pouring into every stroke. The raw emotion felt cathartic, almost like an exorcism of her past fears. But as she embraced the intensity of her creative spirit, whispers of self-doubt intruded. Memories of her mother's words surfaced more frequently, highlighting a looming specter. "You are wasting your time." Those words dripped with condescension, echoing ominously in the background. Would her journey be seen as frivolous by those she hoped would understand? Would the art world, still riddled with its biases, embrace the story she was brave enough to tell? In the days leading up to her next class, Sarah confronted this barrier with increasingly fierce resolve. Reflecting on her journey, she recognized the role of vulnerability not as an invitation for judgment, but as a bridge to connection. Each painting became not just an illustration of her past, but a beacon for others who might mirror her struggles. The day of the critique arrived, heavy with anticipation. As she carried her work to class, the weight of her canvas felt different this time. It was no longer just an object, but a culmination of her evolving self. When she arrived, her classmates buzzed with excitement, and the air was electric with creativity. It was her turn to present, and nerves buzzed in her stomach. But instead of fear, she steadied her breath and centered herself in the moment. "This series is titled Unfinished," she began, "because we are all continuously evolving." With each piece, she articulated her journey, figures lost in shadows emerging into vibrant colors, showcasing her struggle as a path towards light. As she narrated her evolution, Sarah felt a surge of empowerment wash over her. She was not just presenting art, she was unveiling her transformation. She had crossed from fear to assertion, from silence to voice, and that realized revelation shone through in her paintings as well. but the ultimate test awaited her. Each response from her classmates seemed amplified under the spotlight of her anticipation. Would they understand the essence of her journey, or would they reveal her vulnerability yet again? As she stood awaiting feedback, a palpable tension filled the room, a moment pregnant with uncertainty. The moment of truth approached, setting the stage for the next chapter of her artistic and personal odyssey. How would she face the judgment that had haunted her for so long? What discoveries awaited her once she opened herself to reception, both from peers and herself? As the room fell silent, Sarah's heart raced. The first voice to break the stillness belonged to Maya, known for her sharp insights. This series is breathtaking, Sarah. Each piece tells a story beyond what's on the canvas. Sarah felt a rush of relief. It was merely the opening note, but it struck her as a hopeful signal. Was this what it felt like to be seen? As Maya delved deeper into the symbolism of the colors, Sarah felt the weight of her mother's words lift, even if just a fraction. Other voices joined in, offering perspectives that surprised her, each interpretation providing a lens she hadn't considered. They spoke of resilience intertwined with vulnerability. A fragile beauty emerged from her chaos, and the feedback began to construct new layers to her evolving self-definition. In that moment, she realized her art didn't just present her struggles. It became a dialogue, one that invited connection rather than eliciting judgment. Yet in the back of her mind, the specter loomed larger. Each compliment seemed accompanied by a timer ticking down toward potential criticism. As the session shifted into a round of constructive critique, Sarah braced herself. Would they probe deeper, exposing her vulnerabilities? Would they miss the point entirely and reduce her journey to mere aesthetics? When Ben, a classmate known for his stern critique, spoke next, Sarah's stomach tightened. While I appreciate the emotion, I question if the narrative is fully realized in your execution, he said, his tone carefully measured. The imagery feels powerful, but it's almost as if it's leading to an unresolved point. Sarah's thoughts churned. Was he right? Had she left something unfinished that needed to be tied together more cohesively? The specter of inadequacy whispered cruel reminders of the past. She felt a pivotal decision confront her: should she defend her work, or acknowledge the critique and seek to learn from it? In my view, every piece can evolve, Ben, just as we do, she replied, grounding her voice with newfound steadiness. These feelings are reflections of an ongoing journey, one I want others to engage with, rather than simply resolve. The beauty lies in the unfinished, don't you think? He looked at her, momentarily taken aback by her confidence. But rather than feeling threatened, she felt a flicker of triumph. Perhaps defending her perspective was an essential step in her growth. She had taken another leap, not only in her art, but in articulating her thoughts with conviction. As the critique continued, Sarah found a deeper understanding of her work being born through her classmates' feedback. She observed every comment, dissecting the reactions like stalks of wheat to gather new insights. There was power in engaging with different viewpoints, and she began outlining her next artistic direction, a true synergy of her voice aligning with external perceptions. The class wrapped up, and as students gathered their things, a group approached her with enthusiasm. Sarah, can we collaborate next time? One asked, sparking an idea in her mind. Could collaboration enrich her artistic journey? Did she dare to invite others into her process? Later that evening, Sarah sat in front of her easel again, but this time her heart raced with purpose rather than anxiety. Amid the swirling colors, an idea blossomed. She would explore the intersection of her story with those of her classmates. Each painting in her next series could exemplify a shared vulnerability, elegance, and mutual experience. However, amidst the excitement lingered a thought that tugged at her conscience. How much of herself was she willing to share? The essence of connection could also mean unveiling even deeper shadows. Would she truly be prepared to explore these new dimensions? Sarah breathed deeply, acknowledging the burgeoning opportunity while fearing the unknown territories of vulnerability ahead. She could feel the tides of transformation rising, compelling her toward a new horizon. The question lingered: was this next phase a genuine exploration, or merely another layer of judgment waiting to unfold? With the weight of anticipation pressing against her, she resolved to make a choice soon. one that's just beginning to shape her future in ways that mirrored her evolving art. As the days passed, Sarah immersed herself in her new artistic project. The blend of excitement and anxiety tangled together in her mind, creating a complex web that both inspired her and held her hostage. Each stroke of the brush became a dialogue not just with her canvas but with the voices of her classmates, their insights echoing in her thoughts. She found herself in a constant state of reflection, contemplating how to incorporate their ideas while remaining true to her essence. It felt daunting, this task of exposing her vulnerabilities alongside those of others. Each blurring of lines pushed her closer to the edge, where fear coexisted with the tender hope of connection. What began as an exploration of shared experiences quickly morphed into a confrontation with her deepest insecurities. One evening, while vigorously painting into the early hours under the dim glow of her studio lamp, an image began to emerge, a tapestry of interwoven emotions. She dabbled with reds and blues, colors that enhanced the tension between anger and serenity. In the depths of her focus, the memory of Ben's critique resurfaced. Was she unveiling enough of the narrative, or was she shrouding it in abstraction? Her heart raced with uncertainty. Each brushstroke felt like a test of her resolve to be vulnerable. The thought that perhaps the essence of connection wasn't merely in the shared experience, but rather in the authenticity of her individual journey gnawed at her. Had she truly arrived at this intersection of collective storytelling, or was she retreating into a safe cocoon of generalized themes? The ghosts of her past judgments whispered to her, casting shadows on her developing confidence. To confront her doubts, Sarah resolved to draft a series of sketches reflecting not only her classmates' stories but her own too. Each sketch would be paired with a brief narrative, a word cloud of emotions that visually echoed the art. She envisioned an installation that encapsulated the complexities of vulnerability and connection, elevating their shared narratives into something profoundly personal. Yet doubt attacked her resolve. What if, in expressing her own story, she laid bare her limitations? She could almost hear her mother's voice cautioning her, pushing her toward perfectionism. What if the imperfections were exactly what made her art resonate? In the duality of expressions, the delicate balance between exposure and protection, Sarah was beginning to uncover pieces of herself she'd long tucked away. A sudden rush of determination surged within her. She reached for her journal, outlining her thoughts in frantic handwriting. "It's time to confront this," she jotted down as she sketched yet another idea. To embrace the risks, to dwell in the unknown, to reveal a world that might be messier than life's polished surfaces, but infinitely more real. Hours later, she stepped back from her easel with an unexpected clarity. The chaos of her emotions painted across the canvas didn't signal a lack of control but an acknowledgement of her complexities. There was beauty in the imperfection. Would her classmates understand this truth? Would they embrace the challenge she yearned to present? Her heart thumped heavily. A new resolve ignited. She began formulating a plan. Not just to create but to foster conversations about their respective vulnerabilities, to bridge interpersonal connections they had initially only glimpsed in one another's art. Could this project morph into a catalyst for transformative dialogue among them? Yet shadows flickered in her mind. What if she miscalculated the risks, overextended herself beyond her comfort? Panic mingled with determination, creating an intoxicating blend of fear and excitement. As she prepared for her next class meeting, Sarah realized she was poised on the brink of something monumental. She would not only showcase her art but also invite others into an intimate exploration of shared fears and triumphs. The question that consumed her was not merely how to integrate their experiences into her work but whether she could withstand the unveiling of her own. This time, as she stood before the canvas, it was just paint that flowed. Her transformation unfolded with every stroke. What awaited her beyond this threshold, this decision to be truly seen, remained unresolved. With a fierce resolve, she took a deep breath and embraced the uncertainty. The essence of her journey beckoned. Was she ready to face the unveiling of her truest self? The morning sun streamed through the blinds, casting stripes of light across Sarah's workspace, illuminating her transformed canvas. Each stroke told a story, capturing the very essence of her emotional catharsis. Today wasn't just any day, it was the day she would present her work to her classmates. Sarah's heart fluttered, a mixture of anticipation and dread rendering her momentarily motionless. She closed her eyes, focusing on her breathing, the rhythmic inhale and exhale grounding her. The urge to retreat gripped her, yet the vision of her sketch series kept pulling her back, urging her toward the threshold of vulnerability. Each visualization of her classmates' stories intertwined with hers raw, ragged edges pulled into something beautiful taught her more about herself than she ever anticipated. With each step toward the classroom, her resolve began to bloom. Conversations she imagined swirled in her thoughts, questions formed like living threads, ready to weave the tapestry of shared external and internal landscapes. Would they grasp her intention? Would they be willing to join her on this delicate exploration of truths? As she entered the room, she was met with curious gazes, half-formed smiles dancing across their faces. Standing in front of her easel, she took a deep breath, allowing silence to settle, feeling the gravity of the moment weigh on her shoulders. The spotlight felt vast and consuming, yet it also promised potential, a stage for transformation. "Today, I want to share something deeply personal," she began, her voice wavering slightly but gaining strength with each word. "This project reflects not only our shared experiences but also my individual journey." She revealed the sketches, each a portal into her soul, layered with the emotions she had so meticulously documented. Her classmates leaned in, eyes widening with recognition and intrigue. As she showcased each piece, she could feel her nerves begin to dissipate, replaced by a growing connection to the audience facing her. She de-strategized every detail, pairing the sketches with narratives woven from her own challenges of fear, loss, and ultimately, self-acceptance. The stories poured out like a stream, reflective of her newfound commitment to authenticity. Here, I explore loneliness and fragmented, where I painted my own experiences of isolation. But then there's convergence, echoing the beauty found in connection. The murmurs from her classmates did not go unnoticed, a powerful ripple that fueled her voice. She caught glimpses of familiar emotions shared across their faces. A collective realization of the beauty and vulnerability was brewing. One classmate raised a hand. "How did it feel to share this side of yourself?" The question hung in the air, resonating deep within her. "Exposing this meant confronting parts of me I often disguised behind safety," Sarah admitted, the truth cascading from her lips. "But I've learned that embracing vulnerability can lead to deeper connections. That while it's frightening, it is also liberating." Their discussions blossomed, revelations exchanged almost like brushstrokes in their dialogues. Moments of recognition, laughter mingled with tears, and passionate exchanges unfolded. Each insight from her classmates reinforced her belief this was what she had hoped for. Each canvas drawn into the tapestry of collective understanding. Yet beneath her elation, doubt still echoed. Was she truly prepared to keep unveiling herself? Each revealing layer opened her to not just acceptance but potential rejection, a thought that sent a chill down her spine. As she navigated swirling feelings of anxiety, she realized this was merely the beginning. She had laid out the foundation for dialogue, but the walls had to be built, brick by brick, through ongoing interaction. As the class wound down, a smile crept onto her face. This was not the end of her journey. It was perhaps the first step toward a path dotted with uncertainty and growth, a chance to keep pushing boundaries and discovering more about her own complexities. But even as excitement buzzed within her, a firmness settled too. The meeting had sparked initial connections, but resistance loomed on the horizon. Could she maintain this momentum? The question lingered, charging the air with a mix of dread and inspiration. As she gathered her sketches, thoughts of what would come next intertwined with swirling fears of detachment. Unbeknownst to Sarah, this venture into vulnerability also opened a curtain for deeper conflicts yet to arise both within herself and among her classmates. Would the very connection she sought to solidify also create unforeseen fissures? With her heart racing, she felt propelled forward into the unknown. This was just the beginning of the exploration she had yearned for, yet it simultaneously hinted at an impending emotional turbulence. The moment had arrived. Was she prepared to face the consequences of opening her heart and art to the world? As the weeks unfolded in a whirlwind of vibrant colors and raw emotions, Sarah embraced the journey of exploration she had charted. Each art class became her sanctuary, A space not merely for artistic growth but for personal evolution. Her sketches transformed into intricate narratives of vulnerability, as she unraveled the threads of her past, intertwining them with the journeys of those around her. This ongoing dialogue among her classmates ignited a collective fire of understanding and empowerment. Yet, amid these thrilling exchanges, shadows of doubt still lurked, echoing the judgments of her past. Would this openness expose her once more to criticism, the very risk she had cautiously peered into? Sarah wrestled with these fears. Could she remain steadfast in her newfound confidence, especially when faced with the weight of expectations from both her classmates and herself? One afternoon, her thoughts spiraled as she prepared for a critique session. Each brushstroke from her current series echoed her heart's eager rhythm to connect, but at the same time, the looming specter of vulnerability held a dull ache in her chest. What if my story isn't enough? The persistent question clawed at her. However, she was reminded of an undeniable truth. This journey was about authenticity. Her story, with all its messiness, was significant simply because it was hers. Standing before her classmates, Sarah felt the familiar flutter of anxiety, yet was bolstered by the newfound strength that had quietly woven itself into her spirit. As the critiques opened, she felt the warmth of encouragement blanket her, and with each feedback, the fear began to fade. Your series speaks volumes, Maya noted, her voice steady. It explores themes we can all relate to. It's transformative. As the discussion unfolded, Sarah recognized something pivotal. This wasn't just about presenting her art. It was about standing firm in her truth and being unafraid to reveal her journey, one stroke of her brush at a time. The girl who once cowered under whispered judgments now found herself actively engaged, articulate in defending her art and her self-worth. We each bring a unique lens to our stories, she stated confidently. Art is not just about perfection, it's about emotion, the chaos and beauty intertwined. With a newfound clarity, Sarah embraced her vulnerability as a strength to be celebrated. She transformed her self-doubt into an invitation for her classmates to explore their narratives alongside hers. This exchange became a tapestry woven with multiple colors, one rich with the shades of individual experiences and emotions. As the class concluded, Sarah realized how far she had come not only as an artist but as an individual. No longer defined by the whispers and judgments of her past, she stood tall in her identity. There was a palpable energy in the room that day, a shared understanding wrapping around each of them like a warm embrace. That evening, as she returned home, the buzz of the day resonated like a hymn in her heart. In the quiet of her living room, she took a moment to reflect on the remarkable transformation she had undergone. It was not just in her ability to express herself through art, but in how she now believed in her right to exist in that expressive space unapologetically. She had conquered the fear that had previously paralyzed her, emerging from the shadows of self-doubt with grace and strength. Closing her eyes, Sarah visualized her aspirations stretching out before her. She dreamed of a future where she could showcase her work, beyond the confines of the classroom, perhaps even a gallery where her story could touch others. This vision filled her with a sense of purpose. Yes, she had faced judgment, but she had also found allies, compassion, and understanding, elements vital to her growth. As she jotted these feelings in her journal, the pages became a testament to her journey, a powerful amalgamation of fear transformed into strength, vulnerabilities into connections. And just as she had once feared sharing herself with the world, she now yearned to expand this journey, inviting others into conversations that would continue to foster growth. With this realization, Sarah felt a swell of confidence. She had accomplished what once felt like an insurmountable task: to embrace her truth, to turn whispers of doubt into a chorus of validation. She was ready to move forward, equipped with the knowledge that her strength grew stronger with every canvas completed, every critique faced, and every story shared. This wasn't merely an ending, it was a profound beginning. With a determined heart, she could now envision a life filled with endless creativity, connection, and a renewed sense of purpose. Her art, a vehicle not just for expression but for transformation. As she prepared to share her journey further, the call to action surged within her. This was just the start of an adventure where she would inspire others to embrace their stories bravely. And for everyone witnessing her evolution, she urged them to step into their truth too. Now, if you've been inspired by Sarah's journey, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending because you are part of this transformative community.